Welcome everyone once again to Live with the Infidel Guy, and I am your host, Reginald Finley, and let's hope we have a great show this evening. You know, I am trying to experiment with live365.com to see if I can increase our listening base. So after the show, I'll remind you guys that we can do a little quick test. You can go to live365.com, type in free thought, and see if you can hear me. Not right now. And by the way, and if you have joined us and you are on the front page, you can join us in the chat room by clicking right above the control panel there. So I know some of you have found out about this site through other methods. So there is an audio show page. So you can also click on the audio show link at the top left of the page there and join us in the audio show page and join us in the chat room down there. And we have a few people listening in, and hopefully we'll have more joining us shortly. Also, if you have any questions, remember, or comments, you can always call in live at 1-866. That's right, they're on 6 6s already. Can you believe it? It's 866-801-7414 to call in with your question or comment. Well, this evening's guest is Michael Ledo. Michael Ledo was born in Pennsylvania and conceived using Catholic birth control and a victim of Catholic upbringing. Graduated from Independence High School, Charlotte, North Carolina in 1973 and joined the Navy. Spent 6 years in the nuclear submarine service. Wow. And since then, he has worked in the nuclear field and currently working at the Savannah River site in Aiken, South Carolina. He has been married and divorced, has no children outside of a chocolate lab. I guess we'll find out more about that. And now Michael says he became an atheist February 14, 1990, while reading and studying the Bible. Whew, I know the funnies don't like to hear that. Praying to God for the wisdom to understand His Word. I think we all been through that same thing. Nothing happens. Well, Michael says, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. And what seemed like an instant, not only were his religious views changed, but also his political. He started writing simple letters to editors and working up editorials and essays. He has authored one book entitled Bible Bloopers, Evidence That Demands a Verdict 2, a Skeptic Answers Josh McDowell. Welcome to the show. Oh, also, he's a member of the AFS. I have to make sure I plug that in.
Yeah, you got to plug them.
I got to plug that. Atlanta Free Thought Society. And I've seen him actually on television a few times on a couple of tapes we have here. And he participated in, I believe, a few debates with AFS, but he'll tell us more about that. Welcome to the show, Mr. Michael Ledo.
Thank you, Reg.
You're welcome very much. I'm glad to have you on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. It's killed an evening for me.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at this book here. What inspired you to write this book, besides the obvious fact of responding to Josh McDowell? But, wow, I mean, a lot of people just can't write a book and just say, hey, I'm going to, do you have any background in...
Well, I started out writing a bunch of essays, and a lot of this stuff was written as 1- and 2-page essays, and certain commentaries to different other articles and stuff. And I just, after reading nearly 200 books on religion and mythology, there were certain aspects I found in each book. Each book had 1 or 2 things in it that I thought was very pertinent. So what I decided was to get all these together into one book and make something, make a good case against the Bible. That's what brought the whole thing about.
Okay. Well, you have a lot of interesting chapters in here. Hey, wow, I didn't realize that. I just realized that I have an autographed copy of the book. I just realized that. Yeah, but for the listeners out there, and you can, of course, interject anytime you want here. Wow, the contents are quite extensive here. You have, names of people and places I've never heard of.
There is one of the major different concepts that I have here, and it's not unique or mine, but it's in a minority opinion, and that is that David and Solomon never existed. David was actually a myth created by the Jews, likewise with Solomon, and he was taken out of the Ugarit text. There was a King Carrot, or KRT as it was normally spelled. You can put the vowels in wherever the heck you want, but his wife and his King Carrot wife was very similar. The archaeological evidence for David and Solomon simply doesn't exist. And this today is known as the minimalist point of view. If anybody subscribes to Biblical Archaeology Review, they know that there is this big debate going on between what's known as the maximalists, those who think the Bible is inerrant, and the minimalists, those who think that there's hardly anything going on, or most of the Bible is incorrect.
Sounds like me, I guess.
Right. And this is not new. There's a guy named Gerald Massey.
Yes. Wow. He's.
I reference him quite a bit in my book.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Yeah, he's an expert in the solar myths involved with
Egyptology and stuff.
Right.
Solar
and
myths.
Etymology and things.
He was the one who I first read that David and Solomon were mythological, and Solomon, of course, was named after the solar myth. David, he takes from the god Tat from Egypt. DVD, he goes to Tut in the Egyptian, who was the moon god. Each of them reigning correspondingly 40 years, an equal amount of time. And the interesting part is that the mother of Solomon was Bathsheba, which loosely translated means house of seven, or the seventh house, which would be the dividing house between the night and the day, or between the two parts. And recently, there's been a book published in the last year called The Mythic Path by Thomas L. Thompson. He also goes into the structure of the David and Solomon story and shows how this thing is fictional. His claim is that the Old Testament was put together or written between the years 200 B.C. and 160 B.C. during the Greek occupation, and that the history of the Jews was fictionalized or was taken from myths, and what they did was they cleaned the myths up and made it look historical. And as such, they used this to rally the people in order to try to overthrow the Greeks, which they were actually successful in doing. And I personally believe that this is how Jesus came about.
Okay.
Jesus was a mythical person who they made into a factual person, using the Messiah as trying to overthrow the Roman Empire. And as a matter of fact, if you read in the book of Josephus, he will tell you that the Jewish war was fought over the Messiah fervor that was going on in Jerusalem at that time.
Wow, this is interesting. Have you heard of Acharya S?
I'm sorry?
I'm curious. Have you heard of a woman? She identifies herself as Acharya S.
I don't think so.
Well, that's quite interesting. She's been on the show as well, and she talks about there's a lot of the solar myths involved, and how all these gods and demigods were all solar myths, and many of the biblical characters as well were solar myths. And she explains how all that came about. And she's also Gerald Massey is one of the major players in her life that helped her begin to see things as well. And she has a book out called The Christ Conspiracy, in which she talks about that same thing, that she believes that a lot of this religious stuff was brought about for Rome to overthrow, or maybe inversely, I don't know, maybe not misquote her or what the book's about. I'm still reading it myself, but definitely that it was all really a concoction by people in power to basically overthrow other people.
If anyone is interested in Gerald Massey's books and reprints, there is a group called Kessinger Publishers.
Kessinger, I'm writing it down.
Who has made reprints of all his works, and also another guy named G.R.S. Mead. And he was one of the experts in Gnosticism back in the 19th century. And they specialize in 19th century books. A lot of their books that they have are just absolutely nonsense. But there was a large explosion of religious thought during the 19th century. And everybody essentially had all different ideas that came out about Jesus. I mean, and it went through phases of who Jesus was. I mean, one time he was a sun god, next time he was a moon god.
Right.
I mean, he was a harvest god. I mean, there's all whatever you want to read into it. But they do have a website too, www.kessingerpub.com.
How exactly do you spell Kessinger?
Kessinger, and then it goes PUB for the website.com.
Okay, so it's KESSINGER pub.com?
Mm-hmm.
For the individual in the chat room. Okay.
So, and their books are, I guess, reasonably priced. I mean, for the reprints and stuff, as what you would expect. Certainly a lot cheaper than Prometheus.
Mm-hmm. Okay, in your book, you talk about Jesus, the woman.
I go through a lot of things about Jesus. There's various theories that people have come up with Jesus. One was that Jesus was a woman. That's not my theory. I was actually reporting somebody else's theory. And I actually discount that idea.
Okay.
But I wanted to at least have the people know about the idea and present it to them. There's also another one called Jesus the homosexual, which there is an idea that Jesus was homosexual.
Well, I'm sure they don't like that.
I also discount that too, but, you know, at least I want to present the idea to people out there.
Right. No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what more of our establishments of education need to do, express varying viewpoints and then explain why they're either true or false based upon the evidence. So now I've been hearing a lot of talk as well, and I think your book maybe touches a little bit on this, but that there was a Jesus that actually existed.
We could debate that.
Okay.
That in itself is a major debate as to whether there was a Jesus that actually existed or not.
Mm-hmm.
It is possible there was a historical Jesus,
mm-hmm.
Certainly, but not the one that was
mythicized
in the Bible. The one in the Bible is totally based on mythological characters, and there's so much myth crowding his life in the Bible that if there was a historical Jesus, it's going to be very difficult to decipher exactly who or what he was or what he did. The major evidence that I have found to support a historical Jesus probably doesn't come from his existence, but from James, who was considered his brother.
Okay.
And there is considerable writing about him. And if he existed, then one would surmise that the person who was considered his brother in all these different writings existed also. So if you want to discount a historical Jesus, you're also going to have to discount a historical James.
Well,
which would bring us into
mm-hmm.
What's known as another topic in the book called the Piso conspiracy theory.
Okay.
And that is that the Roman Piso family, along with their allies, wrote the entire New Testament. Now, I'm not 100% in agreement with that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might have been elements of the Roman Empire who may have written some of the New Testament. Specifically, the anti-Semitic parts.
Okay.
The New Testament has, if you look at the New Testament, there's two thoughts in the New Testament. One is anti-Semitic, and the other is anti-Roman. Now, those who proposed the Piso theory said that this was due to family feuding, and I really can't buy that too much. The anti-Semitic part would be Matthew, Mark, Luke, Acts, and the epistles that are attributed to Paul. The anti-Roman ones would be the Gospel of John and all the other epistles, and including the Book of Revelation. The Book of Revelation is that's not even a Christian piece of literature. That looks more of a Jewish Christian or Jewish piece of literature that had Jesus as the Messiah. And I contend now that was actually first written very early.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was redone. Actually, it's two authors on it.
Okay.
It was written once, and then it was redone. But then I believe it's in chapter 12 of Revelation. It talks about a part during the Jewish war. where it tells you that the outer court of the temple is given to the Gentiles. And there was a part during the Jewish War when the Romans came in, they took the city of Jerusalem, and the people, particularly the priests, they went into the inner temple, and the Romans occupied the outer temple, and it was a very important part in the Jewish War. And I believe that is what that is actually referring to, and that's the time, about the time when the Book of Revelation was first written. It was designed to rally the Jews against the Roman Empire. I mean, the anti-Roman sentiment in the Book of Revelation is just so plain. I mean, also anti-Paul. They hated Paul. It was the part that says those who are Jew, or those who say they Jew are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. That was clearly a reference to Paul, whose people who said they were Jewish or a part, but they were not, because they did not obey the food laws or the circumcision. And so clearly they were not Jewish. And you can run in. One of the interesting chapters in my book I have is on James and Paul. And there's like a running dialogue that I have going between the two, that I just use Bible quotes from the Epistle of James and the various excerpts from Paul the Apostle. And you can see him arguing back and forth. I mean, it's incredible. You can see how these two guys are ranting back and forth at each other.
Well, I've heard of, what about, is it Joshua Ban Pandera or something like that? I've heard of that. They're saying that, I've actually heard, I don't remember where, so forgive me.
That comes from the Talmud.
Okay.
Okay, that was written later after the Bible was written.
Oh, really?
Probably about 200 AD, I think. And that was the rabbis wrote that, and that was their answer to the Bible. I put as much stock in that as I do the Bible itself as being historic. I think that's probably written more politically than factual. A lot of people think that there was this Jesus. As a matter of fact, even G.S.R. Mead gets into that. He wrote a book like Did Christ Exist 100 B.C.? The Piso people claim that this was written by the Jews because in that book, Jesus is made the illegitimate child of a Roman centurion. In that, okay. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Life of Brian.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Monty Python, they're very well read, and that's exactly where they got this idea from. I mean, the stuff that they presented in that movie, and even in the Holy Grail, is actual stuff that comes out of history. And that was one of them, was that he was this illegitimate son of a Roman centurion. And according to the Piso people, that was the Jews' way of letting them know that they knew that the Roman family made up Jesus. That's according to their literature. So even by their standards, it's a false history.
Now, I've also heard that Yeshua was actually a common name back then, actually.
Right.
Have you heard of that? Yeah, so like James is today, I guess, or
James, and so was Mary too. That's a very common.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of different cultures who utilize some variation of the name Mary, right? Throughout you have Mahdi and Maria.
As a matter of fact, I did a tongue-in-cheek chapter on Mary as the mother of Jesus. It seems Mary was the mother of just about every god out there, or some derivation of the word Mary seems to have been added to it. That seems fantastic. Jesus was also born of a Mary after all these other people. And at the end, in John, in the Gospel of John, Jesus is there on the cross, and who's there? Mary Magdalene's there, Mary his mother, and Mary, who was Mary's sister. In other words, Mary had a sister Mary. Right. And that is like this is incredible. You know, the names of sisters the same. Right. The dual Mary idea, I think maybe Massey might even go over that too. But that's the idea that of the goddess. Okay, like ISIS. They had dual characters. One was the holy whore, and the other was the sacred virgin. And they had both of these incorporated in the same person.
Yeah, in ancient Egypt, they have the same type of duality there.
ISIS was the same way. She was the holy whore and the sacred virgin. By the time, Jesus' time, this idea had become a little archaic, or it just didn't translate well even to their time. And they couldn't really incorporate that into Christ's story, so they divided up this goddess into two people. Mary, his mother, and Mary Magdalene, who was the prostitute, even though the Bible never actually said she was a prostitute. That's an interesting point, too. Everyone says she was a prostitute. Like, where'd you get that? It's not in the Bible, you know.
Right. Wow. Yeah, Horus, I believe, in ancient Egyptian mythology, displayed that duality, too. So, yeah, it's amazing. So Mary was a representative of the sun, of the moon, right? In some cultures?
She was more of the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Which is why she wore blue all the time. She was an ocean. As a matter of fact, Mary in the Latin, Mare, M-A-R-M-E, means sea.
Oh.
And it also the word also means bitter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she was, and the idea of the goddess or whatever, or the mother of the earth being the sea goddess is speculated that the reason why that was done was during childbirth was the breaking of the water, and all this water comes out of her during childbirth, and they speculate that's how this first started.
Wow. Well, for those of you just tuning in, we are with Michael Ledo. He is the author of Bible Bloopers, Evidence That Demands a Verdict 2, a Skeptic Answers Josh McDowell. And if you've reached us through the front page there, please join us in the chat room. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to call us here at 866-801-7414 with your question or comments. Wow, there's so much stuff here. Jesus' his breast and the Savior, his life on the cross.
Another interesting aspect that I actually get into.
Okay.
And one of the things that they tell you was the idea that Josephus was actually the author of the book of Luke and Acts. I'm pretty much set on that idea.
And why is that?
I got that idea from reading. You buy the works of Josephus at a Christian bookstore, and it has Christian commentary during his works, and what it references everything that Josephus wrote, or whatever they can reference, to the Bible. So it makes actually the comparison between Josephus and the Bible very easy to do. And one of the things they kept saying in their books is, be careful not to, confuse these, that they are the same author, because they wrote these same things. They keep telling them, no, he didn't write. They keep protesting the idea that Josephus wrote Luke in their books. And by reading this, it's like, wait a minute, maybe this guy really did. Now, what I would really like to see do is maybe have a common word usage comparison between the old Greek manuscripts of Luke and Acts, versus those of Josephus, to see, to test theory out. That's a little bit beyond my capabilities, but that is something I like to see done to at least test the theory. There's a lot of things that they wrote was similar. As a matter of fact, they even lump different ideas together, and they're out of chronological sequence, but they lump them both together, both in Luke, or both in Acts and in the works of Josephus. And it's like, how could they do this unless, they either read the other and knew it, or they're the same person.
Interesting. Well, I'm looking through here again at some things in your book that have interested me. Well, let's see. You talk about the age of the earth and how there's no evidence for a worldwide flood. But despite that fact, it is still being presented by creation scientists that it is here.
Well, yeah, and even if you read their book, okay, they have this Bible on this creation science. It's written back in the early '60s. I forget what the name of the book is. I do have it here somewhere on the shelf, and I reference it in my book also.
Okay.
But if you read through the whole thing, I think I mentioned the chapter here. But if you read through the whole thing, basically at the end of this thing, because if you do a chronological date of the Bible, right, you go back and you figure out what the flood was, you know, like Bishop Usher did or whatever, you can come up with a specific date for the flood. Now, I think it works out to be about somewhere around 2500 BC.
Okay.
All right. Now, for the Bible to say, or for Christians or anybody to say, okay, we had this universal flood 2500 BC, and you look at, well, you know, we had pyramids at this time. You know, I mean, there was no interruption in many of the older civilizations.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't use that. So what the authors of this book did is they compiled all this evidence to prove that they had this major flood, this big Noah's flood. And then at the end, they said, well, we don't think it happened in 2500 BC. We think it may have happened, much earlier than that.
Right.
Sometime around maybe 10,000 BC, which was a nice time at the end of the last ice age. And they go on to say, and there may be some generations missed in this children of Abraham. So, you know, they kind of backtrack after trying to show that, this blood, had to occur. And then they go on and say, well, the Bible's wrong. It's the wrong time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing that you talk about radiocarbon dating is amazingly incorrect when it supports scientific data, but it is correct when it supports their data. And you talk a little bit about, oh, wow, what is this?
Well, carbon-14 is not without its problems.
Of course,
it's based on the amount of carbon-14 that was in the air. So, and that varies according to the 11-year cycle of sunspots. So, within that 11-year period, it's not an exact science.
Right.
You can approximate with carbon-14.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to the century.
Right. But there are also so many other methods as well as dating too, though, that many creationists don't talk about those too as well. There are a total of 3 different methods they utilize to date things, and it's amazing. Okay, well, you talk about, I found this very, very interesting. Early in your chapter, you talk about creation. And Josh McDowell's quote, to get you started, he says, the biblical narrative is accurate and concise in direct contrast to the crude Babylonian story, which contends the earth was made from a dismembered part of one of the gods after infighting in heaven. Actually, there are quite many more Babylonian stories, actually, according to some of the reading I've done. They have actually quite a few myths which all mirror each other.
Yeah, and there's more than one, creation myth besides the Babylonian. That's the one he likes to point to, where the woman is apparently cut in half or something, and then they use her body to make the firmament of the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you can go to that and say, okay, but then there are actually probably about 5 creation stories in the Bible. People probably don't recognize that. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6. You have the one that's in Genesis chapter 1, that everyone's familiar with.
Mm-hmm. They like to say that's an introductory statement. It's a summary. So.
Right, and that's actually a priestly source. And then Genesis chapter 2 actually has another creation story, which is very similar to Genesis chapter 1. Although you talk to Christians, they'll tell you that both one is the same, and that's fine. And they have some valid arguments there, but there's essentially 2 different sources and 2 different stories. The third one we're also familiar with is in the book of John, the first chapter of the Gospel of John.
Okay.
Has a quick creation story, and that's more from the Gnostic point of view of creation. Then there is another creation story that's hidden in Psalms that you get into, where you have the infighting in heaven, like almost like the pre-creation story, you know, between Michael and Satan, and throwing out the casting out of Satan, along with Leviathan and that whole aspect of the dragon in the sky fighting. There's two others. Actually, Noah's flood is a creation story, and Moses crossing the Red Sea is taken from creation stories too. Although the Bible incorporates them as different stories, they're essentially creation stories or creation myths that have been incorporated into the Bible. So there's all kinds of creation stories in the Bible.
Yeah, I heard there was another myth I read about a pearl necklace being ripped off and strung across the heavens, and, and that's how we got a rainbow. I find that quite interesting. That all these stories have parallels. They only vary by a little bit, yet they're all very, very so similar. Also, Egyptian mythology as well. They have a lot of similarities in their mythology of how I didn't even realize this until I think this is one of Jordan Maxwell. Have you heard of Jordan Maxwell?
No, I have not.
He is an avid Gerald Massey reader as well, but he's gone now more toward the New Age side, I guess, of things. But there was a god in ancient Egyptian mythology who actually fashioned. He was called the Great Potter, and he fashioned people out of clay.
Right.
And I'm going, whoa, wait a minute, that's in the Bible too. I think I don't remember the story, but someone asked. I believe God responded to someone, "Who are you, the clay, to question the potter," or something of that nature. And I'm going, wait a minute, that's the same story. And I'm thinking, and that Egyptian story is thousands of years before the Bible was written.
And one of the weird things about Egyptian mythology is there's no standard Egyptian mythology.
Right.
Different gods play different roles in different cities, and different myths about the same gods existed in different cities. And a lot of times, one god may be a moon god in one city, might be a harvest god in another. I mean, there's no standard Egyptian mythology. But there's some basic stuff, but you could pretty much derive what you want from Egyptian mythology. There's also, you gotta watch your 19th century literature too on a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's actually false.
Oh, really?
That was written during that time. One was there was comparisons that one person wanted to do between the Bible and I believe it was India and old India myths, and he had this story of the first man whose name was Adama. And
I've heard that.
Yeah, well, the whole thing was made up. The whole thing was bogus. There is no Adama in Indian mythology. I mean, the whole thing was made up. And I really hate to see that from an atheist point of view, trying to discredit the Bible. That people actually had to go to lengths to make stuff up.
Oh, that's terrible.
Anything about the Mayan culture printed during the 19th century, it's particularly comparison between the Mayans and the Egyptians and the Mayan pyramids and the Egyptians' pyramids. That's pretty much bogus. That was all a lot of that was fictionalized. And there's a lot of fictional stuff written about Jesus during that time. I have that I got. There was one that was supposed to be an eyewitness account to the crucifixion.
Okay.
And this was supposed to have been a letter that was written from somebody who saw the crucifixion, written to the Essenes living in Egypt.
Okay.
And it's interesting because what the person who wrote this tried to do was try to justify all the differences in the crucifixion stories between the four gospel texts. And he has each player, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, in here watching the crucifixion from a different point of view and seeing different things at different times. Therefore, they had different stories. Coming to the cave at different times. That's why their story's different. I thought it was pretty interesting. how this thing happened. Because I know Dan Barker has a standing bet or whatever, or offer that anybody who could actually come up with a way to make all these stories come together, like $1,000 reward or something that he offers for anybody who can make these stories gel together. And this guy actually does it quite well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought his commentaries and stuff interesting, just by having people, by having them see Jesus from different viewpoints and at different times.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you talk about the Adama. I've read a few books. I'm sure you know about the ancient Sumerian culture, and there's so many people have taken what little evidence we have about that culture and have there's so many stories. Some say aliens, some say ancient moon and sun worship. They were all demons. I mean, I've heard all kinds of crazy things, but actually I read one book where this individual says that in the ancient Sumerian mythology, that one of the first people on earth, his name was Adamu. So I find that very interesting. Makes you wonder.
Not sure about that, but
mm-hmm.
It may be, it may not.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'd have to look a little better.
It just makes you wonder, though.
Documentation on that too.
Right. I couldn't believe Adamu, and then they said the woman was Eve or something. I'm like, same as Eve. I was wow. I mean, is it really? But you're right, and it's so easy to feed individuals information, and without them going out there and doing the research themselves. It's just really, it's very time consuming to go out there and validate some of these claims that these people make.
Right. But you almost have to know your source. I actually took out several chapters of my book once I had it written because I realized that my source was questionable. I had this stuff about Adama in there,
mm-hmm.
and then I started reading more, and I found out this guy was a phony,
mm-hmm.
and I had to go back and gut that chapter.
Mm.
There was another popular idea that there was this Rabbi Wise back in the 19th century who actually had the records of Pontius Pilate and all the people he put to death, and Jesus wasn't in there. Well, those records don't exist. I mean that's all there is to it. But somehow, this story came out that he had that, and I had that originally in my book, and I had to take that out too. I had to be careful what I put in there. I actually took some of the good stuff out, the convincing stuff. I tried to make it somewhat factual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I recently, I guess I had it now for about 4 months or so. I have a video called The Naked Truth. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's pretty good, but the similarities are so amazingly similar between Jesus and all of these other much older ancient Semitic gods or demigods and other in Eastern religions. It makes you want to question it, though, really. They're just way too, I don't know, in your research, have you come across some falsehoods dealt with that? But this video I watched says that there are great similarities between Jesus and Krishna, a Hindu god.
Yeah, and Krishna, the stuff that was written about Krishna was actually older than the stuff about Jesus.
Uh-huh.
So any argument, even though I think his time may have predate him,
mm-hmm.
but anything you really read about Krishna is any Christian could argument is a post-Christian falsification or doctrine. So I read it, I looked at it, there are remarkable similarities, but I didn't use it for just that reason.
Uh-huh.
That's why I did more comparisons to Horus, which, is the writings about Horus are over 1,000 years older than that of Jesus, whereas Krishnas are actually newer than that. So I didn't want to make that comparison.
Okay, well, I also heard about, what about Gautama Buddha? They say a lot of similarities between Jesus and Buddha.
Yeah, and I have a chapter on Buddha in there, too. Similar in what, not what they did, but more in what they said.
Ah.
And one of Buddha's was the wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Mm-hmm.
That was a Buddha phrase.
They also say Buddha was born speaking, and they say that, in ancient texts, Jesus was also born speaking as well, right?
If you go to the apocryphal literature and stuff, that you can find out a lot more about Jesus. He's even more mythical in those books.
So, from what you see, I know some individuals who have Bibles that are old. I had one guy contact me. He asked me what could he do with it because he has a Bible that's over a couple of hundred years old. And he was wondering, and he began to give me passages that were in the Bible, and they were totally different in his Bible than what's in the most modern King James version, today. And I'm going, man. So it's almost as if they're demythologizing Jesus to make it, or the myth make more sense, or to make it more real. So it's like they're changing it. They're taking a lot of the extraordinary stories that were in there, they're taking them out, or they're downplaying them. And especially, as you know, all the cruel things.
They have changed, and I mentioned that one of the specific words in one of the chapters I have called Jesus' breath. And that's one of the things that in chapter 1 of Revelation, there is it describes Jesus as a God, and gives him all these different features. These glaring eyes. He has this sword. And one of the things it says that you read in the King James Version, it's also in Gideon, that he is girded about the paps. Paps was the Greek, and you really had to have a concordance for this stuff, but it meant mammals or breasts and female breasts. And when you put all these different aspects of Jesus together that's listing, it's actually listing different aspects of the 7 planetary gods, or the 5 planetary gods, and then the moon and the sun. And I list these different aspects. That's on page 225, and there's actually a misprint there. It says Janus, where it should be saying Venus. It would be obvious to most people, but I'm sure there's some people who might have missed it. But
I kind of figured that.
But he's actually, Jesus is presented as being let's see.
In your book, you have Jesus is a composite of the 7 celestial gods. Also represented is the Hierophant of the Phrygian mysteries, complete with its divine insignias. 7 priests bearing lamps, carrying the 7. This is so funny, though. Wow. He
was supposed to have female breasts. That was the way. He was supposed to have been depicted that way, and there was many of the Gnostics pictured Jesus that way, and that does not translate well into modern day. So they changed that to breastplate in the newer translations. They wanted to get rid of that.
Michael, something striking though. As you know, in ancient, not ancient, but in Egypt, you had a queen who disguised herself as a king, correct? Are you familiar with that story?
Yeah, she wore a fake beard and stuff too.
That's right, and every depiction of this king had breasts, and all the sculptures and things like that. So, and there's been a lot of talk about that. They're wondering, why are the statues in this man's tomb feminine, and they have breasts? Yet it was supposed to be a male tomb. I believe it was, darn it, I can't remember the actual name of the pharaoh at the time. But that is just amazing. So when you're saying that, it just automatically hit me that there was a queen who disguised herself as a king, and the hieroglyphs show this stuff. It shows that this particular king, I believe it was Aten, and when he died, his wife took over as king, and you can see the gradual change in her name over time. You just saw the name change into the masculine. Yet there were like 5 different forms of her name, but you can just see it evolve, and everyone accepted her as a male. And so when you mentioned that, it's like, wow, there's another similarity. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but to be honest with you, Reg, I really don't think that has to do anything with the androgyny gods that existed. Maybe a little coincidence, but this androgynous Jesus and the androgynous gods were quite common. And
definitely.
I don't recall them being too Egyptian. I think they're more from the Babylonian and Sumerian type of locations.
Well, this is the thing, though, Michael. I went to Fernbank Museum. They have an Egyptian exhibit there. Majority.
Up in Chicago.
Here.
Fernbank in Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was up in Chicago there. I know they had a great Egyptian up there. I know they had the Fernback. I didn't know they had the Egyptian.
Yeah, they brought it down here.
Oh.
I don't know if maybe they did get it from there. I'm not sure, but they're having a special here on the Egyptian culture. And there's a document there which is talking about how many of Egyptians' myths and a lot of their culture came from the Assyrians. So when you say that, I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, and you'll get arguments. That's a chicken or an egg argument there too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, did they get it from the Assyrians or did the Assyrians get it from them?
Mm-hmm.
Which one's actually older? A lot of your modern day authors contend that the Egyptians got their culture from the Babylonians and Sumerians. While if you read Massey's a pure Egyptologist. He claims the whole world got everything from Egypt.
Oh. And
interesting about Massey, is I was reading this article about and it said back and it gave him all these kudos. But back in the early 60s, he came up with this idea that the Egyptian hieroglyphs were not unique, that they actually came from the sub-Saharan African pictographs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, if they had read Massey 100 years earlier, he had already done all this research. I mean, he never mentioned the guy, but it was actually his idea. And again, this guy, all of a sudden he's taking credit for it, for finding this new modern revolutionary idea, in the 60s.
Yeah, that's typical. I've a little bit of reading I haven't done. I've discovered a lot of people do that. They or these so-called new discoveries they have. You're right. They've already been discussed by Massey and others. Now you talk about you have a chapter in here called A Fish Story, and you're talking about the Christian fish symbol and its origin and what it means. Could you expound on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, that comes from Barbara Walker's book, which is a book I highly recommend. It's in my top 5 recommendations. I put that. It's the Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets.
Oh yeah, I wanted to get that. Okay.
And when I bought it, I got this softback cover for about $20-some when it first came out. And the last time I was in like a Barnes and Noble, they had a hardback cover on their clearance table for $4.95. So it kind of torqued me, but it's a good book. As a matter of fact, I bought that book for a Christian friend of mine who is no longer a Christian. It proved to be very convincing for him, coupled with my book too, of course. But the Christian fish is not actually a Christian fish. It's an ancient symbol.
Mm-hmm.
The Pisces of Venus, or the fish of Venus. And it was an inverted symbol. You take the Christian fish symbol and you invert it 90 degrees. And what you have now is what the ancients looked like was the female sexual organ. Was that what it actually was?
Mm-hmm.
And they, for some reason, they associated this with the smell of fish or with fish. And on Friday, which was Venus's day, that was their lovemaking day. So in honor of Venus, they would eat fish, which they thought was an aphrodisiac,
mm-hmm. and
they would all make love on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So this custom, the church couldn't get rid of it. I mean, this is it. They were once the weakers back then, and they weren't going to let even Christianity take that away from them. So the church incorporated that into their religion, the eating the fish on Friday, which, I remember as growing up Catholic, doing that. We'd all eat fish on Friday. And it was based on this pagan tradition. Even the Christian fish was based on a pagan idea.
Mm-hmm.
But you see it on the back of all these station wagons and everything. I just think it's funny.
They have no idea.
They have no concept where this thing actually came from. I mean, I mean, the story that the church actually gives, the official doctrine, is that this comes from, like, if you take a fish's bladder or something, you cut it at a certain angle, it has this shape to it, some really bizarre thing, and then, if you spell out Jesus' name in these Greek letters, I don't know, but that's not where it came from.
Yeah, and that. I can believe that because, well, actually, there's a website as well out there I found, and they said they called it the Yoni or something like that. Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. And they talk about, this is funny, the same word for fish is the same word for little girl, which is Reba. I thought that was interesting.
Well, I don't think that's probably not a coincidence. I have found that a lot of the word similarities, they're not coincidental at all. There are some, even in the alphabet, where I notice there's things like women uses the letter M all the time for Mary, also for mammillary, for breast, the mammillaries. The letter M has that particular shape to it, of a set of mammillaries. And A was typically the symbol for man or for Adam, and that's here again the way they form the A. It looks like an erect male organ. I mean, these things have these ancient
or they had meanings and
stuff to them when they first came about, and I think Massey goes into that too.
I need to get that book, and once again, you say we can get that at
no, not a book. Okay. This guy has got books. I mean, all of his books, the main ones are like written in 2 parts, and these things are huge. And he's got 3 major books: Natural Genesis, Book of the Beginnings, and Ancient Egypt. And these things number like 500 pages.
Goodness.
Per book. So every pair of books you get is about 1,000 pages. I mean, this guy goes into everything. Even the naming of, he goes into some stuff that I think is kind of weird, is that like the naming of taverns in England after Egyptian myth, like the headless woman or things of that he gets into. And he'll even compare the Egyptian language to old Welsh languages. I mean, there's some things that I just couldn't get into on him. He may be right, he may not be right, but it was out of my line of study for right now.
And for those of you just joining us, once again, we have 5 more minutes left until the top of the hour and the conclusion of the show. But we are with Michael Ledo. He's the author of Bible Bloopers, Evidence That Demands a Verdict 2, a Skeptic Answers Josh McDowell. And we were recently talking about letters, and we talked about symbolism, and we haven't yet got into etymology. I love hearing a little bit of etymology. You have any good ones for us?
Not really. There's etymology on what? Some words here or something?
Yeah, those are great. But let me see. Actually, I put you on the spot there. I just love that etymology. As a matter of fact, Jordan Maxwell was on it. He made a few. I think he goes a little too deep into it myself. I think sometimes maybe these words do have meaning, sometimes they don't. But and Acharya S., like I mentioned before, who's been on, she mentions a lot of etymological significance in religion. Oh, well, for instance, like the Holy Bible, for one thing. I mean, where that comes from. And I'm sure it's even, I can't go that far. I haven't done the research, but a little I have done about that word. And I love talking to Christians about this. I say, Holy Bible, what does it mean? What does holy mean? They don't know. And I said, well, from the Latin, Helios Biblia, right? You have Helios Biblia, then you have the Sun Book. I mean, you have Sun Books, the Book of the Sun, which goes right hand in hand with what Gerald Massey talks about, and you and Acharya and others. Recently, if the listeners, if you want, I was recently given an email from, and it had a link to a website that had nothing but ancient depictions and modern depictions of how religions still worship the sun today and how they did back then. And there's so much evidence that it all really came from this ancient sun worship. It's beautiful. I mean, it has, I think, 40 or more pictures on this thing. And it's just amazing. You see it in Egyptian hieroglyphs. You see it on the Sumerian cuneiform. You see all these different depictions of their gods as this winged disc.
And I think what modern day Christianity, if you look at, if you want to talk about sun gods, they're still there, is the halo.
Right, exactly.
The halo is a symbol of the sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just twisted it and made it a circle there, made it a ring. But
well, yeah. it was a ring, and that's how they depicted the sun, was with the use. But it was
always a disc
behind them,
right,
shining forward, and then they changed it to put the little ring on top of the head. But
right,
but that aura, that's certainly sun worship.
Mm-hmm, no doubt about it. You're right, and it continues to do it today. Don't even realize it. Another thing I've noticed, and I was reading this other book, there's in many ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, they show these the sun worshippers or these Egyptian cults, as I call them cults, because as you mentioned, each Egyptian city they all worshiped their own individual gods. They had their own different type of organization there, but they would raise their hands to the sun, in some sense of reverence, or maybe they were shielding their eyes from the glorious brilliance of the sun. But people still do that today. They lift their hands in praise to the Lord. And I'm going, this is the same thing that they have done in many cultures.
And even Christmas was celebrated as the birth of the sun, because that was the winter solstice.
Oh, that's right.
And, right. And another interesting aspect is the early Christians. When you want to know if people were a sun worshiper, you look at their graves. The people who are graves, they're buried in an east-west fashion with the head toward the rising sun in the east. That was just the traditional way they would bury the sun worshippers. And the early Christian graves have that same orientation, with their heads buried to the east.
There was a movie that there was a. Have you seen the movie Pitch Black?
No, I have not.
Well, I'm not going to ruin the whole thing for my listeners or you, but there is one particular scene in which they talk about there was a group of Muslims on this on this freighter. It crashes on a planet, and the first thing the Muslims do is they jump out of the plane, find out where is east, and they start praying to the east. And I'm going, you are on some weird planet. I mean, east is not the same east anymore.
Yeah, you want to pray to Mecca. You gotta
right.
look.
And where does and the sun rises from what?
Well, actually, it doesn't rise. The Earth rotates, but
of course. But, but in that part of the country. Right. So I'm wow. I'm sitting here thinking, wake up, people. That's where it all came from. It's really simple. One would speculate. And I wrote an article about it on my website as well. I talk about the good and evil concept and where it all comes from.
Speaking of astrology is the next thing I'm really getting into in the Bible and how it relates to astrology.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I want to recommend another book. I actually got this from, there's a couple guys on TV. It's called Prophecy in the News. I don't know if you ever watched them. A guy named J.R. Church runs this organization. And their whole thing is that the Bible, the whole story of the Bible, is told in the constellations. Everything is astrologically told in the constellations. Therefore, this proves that the Bible is true because God wrote it up in the heavens.
It proves that it was false.
Right. And so, well, wait a minute. All this does is just shows where these guys make the story up from was from the constellation.
Exactly.
I mean, they use the same logic or the same ideas, but they use their logic is totally backwards.
Exactly.
But they sell books. And they have a book from I think like the 19th century called The Witness of the Stars by E.W. Bollinger. And it's a really interesting book But he has the same idea they do, that, all this stuff being in the stars therefore proves the Bible. But, you can look at it from a different point of view. And, for instance, the fall of the Satan, or the fall of the dragon, that was the constellation Draco, which is the dragon. About 6,000 or so BC, this constellation occupied the part where the North Star is now. So it was actually the center of heaven. It actually ruled the heaven. And through the different motions of the earth, this changed. And I think that it was actually, over time, this dragon was cast out of that spot. And I think Vega or something went in there. And if you look at the dragon, the head of the dragon is at the heel of Hercules. Okay? And you do have this bizarre statement in Genesis where, the serpent is at his heel. It's just like, well, the best thing that, you can look at is the astrological viewpoint. It's the easiest and best explanation for that statement.
Wow.
And this book is just filled with stuff like that.
Okay, well, we have a caller just called in. You're live with the Infidel Guy and Michael Ledo. Go ahead. I guess they don't want to say anything.
Okay.
No, maybe it's one of my one of my Christian listeners that.
Hello?
Hey, you're live with the Infidel Guy. Go ahead.
Button there, huh?
Yeah, hey.
Blame him.
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Well, it just caught the end of your program tonight. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We're still on for another couple of minutes.
What's the book again?
Well, I just, it's what kind of is amazing to me is that sometimes, and I'm not an atheist or a Christian, more of an agnostic. I really don't know what's going to happen, and never have claimed to.
Okay.
But what amazes me about atheists is they wanted this count. They were talking about the sun, but if you look at it in our lives, the sun's a very important object.
That's right.
We don't have the sun, we don't have anything.
That's right.
And I don't understand why.
The light of the world that brings us salvation because it is risen.
Well, I don't know if it brings us salvation, but
it does.
Well,
we wouldn't. That's right.
we wouldn't have anything to. We couldn't live.
That's right.
And so, and the only thing is, I don't know what it is about the atheist.
Okay.
But it's just like that. They just want to discredit we're hardwired to do this. We're hardwired to make a pattern
of understanding. You mean, or
yes, of understanding.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're hardwired to be superstitious creatures.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. I agree with you totally 100%.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being superstitious.
As long as I guess, unless you're adversely affecting someone else.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, I call it fantasy. I have fantasies all the time. But I know how to come down to reality. I know what's real.
Right.
Right.
But at the same time, I think we have to realize that we seek the supernatural, and we seek it to get things to go our way. And
in many cases, yeah, I can see how that's a lot of our cultures
are fascinated by the supernatural, and we want to learn more about what is supernatural. I mean, if supernatural even exists,
above the natural, how would we know?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, supernatural. I mean, there's a lot of things that we really can't explain.
Right, and saying we can't explain them, therefore it is supernatural, and what you create is what Carl Sagan calls, I think, the God of the gaps.
Right.
Here we have these gaps in our scientific knowledge, therefore we have to create something supernatural or a God to fill those gaps. I just prefer to look at them as gaps in our scientific knowledge because man's mind is finite, and we're not going to be able to understand everything no matter how great we think we are. So,
and that's okay.
That problem, that doesn't really bother me as much as other people who
exactly
who have to fill these gaps with something.
Well, but if you don't have a natural question to wonder what these gaps are,
that's okay.
Then they'll never get answered.
Not really.
That's correct. And if you assume that it is something supernatural, then you won't pursue the answer.
Oh, definitely. It will never.
No, I disagree with you totally. I disagree with that totally.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that believed in the supernatural, let me not believe in the supernatural, but had some kind of faith in human nature.
Supernatural.
Human nature. Set out and really answered questions that were at one time were contributed to supernatural things.
But they were wrong.
Huh?
Yeah, and they call that period the Dark Ages. But
no, they don't. No, take Gregory Mendel for instance. He was a monk. He studied religion, and he's considered the father of genetics. Just because someone has some kind of faith or religion doesn't mean they're totally ignorant.
There's something called the scientific method. Yeah, there's something called the scientific method. There are many people.
They used the scientific method to figure out what they had. They didn't go to the Bible and read the Bible. Mendel didn't go to the Bible and say, okay, well, let me interpret this phrase here in the Bible. Genetics, okay.
Well, but exactly. I think you're right. But see, the Bible's not a book of. Well, I'm not. I think you guys realize what I'm saying.
Yeah, we got you.
The Bible's not a book of biology.
Not at all.
When my grandfather died, we didn't break out a biology book and read it. You know what I mean? And then if I want to know Avogadro's number, okay, I'm not going to go to the Bible to seek that. It's totally two different things to me.
Definitely.
Yeah, you are correct, but there's a lot of people out there, and this is getting off from what you said, who claim that the Bible is scientific.
Well, it's not.
I mean, and it's so funny to listen to these people. It's almost as if scientists read the Bible, try to find answers, and actually what happens is that the Bible keeps getting reinterpreted every time science comes up with something new.
That's true.
I mean, when the Earth is no longer flat, it's like, okay, all these references to this Earth that doesn't move, we're going to reinterpret all this as poetic language.
Exactly. Well, but you have to understand that when the Bible was written, these men that wrote the Bible, or whoever it was, I don't know who it was, they weren't scientists. They didn't have the methods and the tools to explain, and they were doing the best they could to explain what they understood life was. Now, is it a scientific fact? No, it's not. From what we understand now, and what they wrote, it's totally different. But at least they were trying to explain how they came into existence.
Yeah, nothing wrong with trying.
Huh?
Nothing wrong with trying. Well, but there's a particular way of going about doing things. If you don't do things within a certain particular fashion, you're going to fail every time.
Well, Infidel Guy, here's what I'm saying, is that you're not giving those guys that wrote those things a break, okay? They didn't have the tools that you and I, or the understanding that you and I have now.
Well,
that's okay.
Yeah, but when you make a claim, okay, like the Christians do, that these guys wrote this inerrant word of God, that they were inspired by God, inspired by the Holy Spirit to create this perfect book of knowledge, then the book is supposed to be perfect, and we shouldn't give it a break. We should, we should examine every detail of it.
Well, I agree with that. I really do, because it's not an inerrant object. Definitely not. But I'm just saying that it's got to be put in context of its history and the time it was written.
Yep, and that's exactly what I think many archaeologists and scientists, anyone who's reasonable, would do.
I do have a slight difference. I don't believe that people wrote the Bible to explain our existence or their world around them. I think that the Bible, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, were written for pure political reasons. People who wanted their ideas pushed, people who wanted revolts. I think it was written for more politics than for religion.
Right. Yeah, I think the thing we have to be, and I think that caller And I hear what you're saying, Michael, but caller, let's remember, he said the Bible, not all superstitions. I mean, the Bible is a conglomerate of many, many different ideas and other religions, and the people who wrote it knew this. But if you go back and you talk about ancient superstition, people may believe that walking under a ladder or whatever, or that, of course, arose out of pure ignorance.
Well, now superstition is a wide term. Infidel Guy.
Religion and superstition mean the exact same thing to me. Religion and superstition mean the exact same thing to me. And that's just me. That's just me.
There are some people who believe that religion is just, trying to find a way to be the best human being they can.
Or the worst human being. Or the worst human being.
Or the worst.
Yeah.
And some of them can use it. It could be used. It could be a terrible deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, the majority of most religions do have some form of superstitious belief. I've not been able to find one religion that doesn't have some component of superstition in it. That's by virtue of being a religion. Otherwise, it should be called a culture. I mean, in my opinion, or society, or something else besides a religion. I mean, I think that no matter where you go, no matter how far east you go, they have some component of superstition in their belief system, in that religion. I don't think there is one that does not have a component of that.
But that doesn't invalidate them. Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Well, anything.
Let me go back to the American Indian. Okay, they had a lot of superstitions.
Sure did.
Huh?
Sure did.
Yeah, they had a lot of superstitions.
Animism.
But they had a culture, a very vibrant culture.
Yes, they did.
And so I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I think you can have. I don't.
Superstitions are we just talking about like cultural taboos type thing?
They might be cultural taboos. They might be rules that that the tribe follows or the culture follows, and they might not be based in scientific method, but they might have some degree of truth in them.
Oh boy.
Just like some of the laws of, let's say the Jewish dietary laws. Okay, there's some truth in there about not eating certain things, so you won't get sick. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, and a lot of
now does it mean that
deeper into it is not quite factual either. Some of the stuff that they did.
Well, pork is taboo. And pork used to I forgot what the disease was.
Was it trichinosis?
Yeah, trichinosis.
And they said that was actually very rare in Israel at that time period. They really didn't see that. A lot of the Israeli habits, a lot of the eating habits, even their circumcision, they actually took from the Egyptians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Exactly. They took it from other cultures. You're exactly correct. But they still became a culture.
And that's not to say that they didn't incorporate some ideas into their religion. I mean certainly. I mean, one would expect.
Of course.
I mean, that's
well, what's the point of having? Exactly. What's the point of having a religion if you won't act upon it?
Necessarily, justified as being God sent just because they happen to, found something out through trial and error and incorporated it into a religious belief.
But if you were ancient, or well, not even if you're ancient, if you didn't have an exact way to explain it, you might consider it supernatural. Am I correct? If you were a culture,
beats me. I mean, all I know is how I think. Honestly, I can't even imagine. And with the knowledge, I can't. Well, okay, I guess if I strip away all knowledge of what I know today, and I look up into the sky and I see lightning, and especially if I see it kill someone, I'll probably think something up there beyond my control did that purposely.
Exactly.
And I concur, but I have a limitation of knowledge. But I have no way of utilizing any particular tool to test what I just saw. Nor would I want to. Fear. I guess fear would keep me out of doing that, huh?
But now,
I'll be scared I'll be next.
Now you know that it's a random chance. It's accidental. That.
Well, yeah.
a matter of, the charged particles of the earth and the charged particles of the air building different, particles, different charges, and, and someone's standing there and they get struck by lightning. It was random.
Well, that is one word. As a matter of fact, I had this discussion today with the guy at work. I hate that word random.
Why?
and there's really nothing random. I mean, everything obeys the laws of science. Random is a word that we use when we are overwhelmed, that we can't explain things using basic, simple laws. For instance, but that lightning, if you have a certain charge in the sky and you have that charge down below, that lightning is going to hit that spot every time.
Exactly.
Not a random occurrence where the lightning's going to hit. It's going to hit that specific spot.
You didn't plan to stand there.
So then it's about unpredictability.
But it's going to appear as a random event, but it's not actually.
It's just unpredictable. Is that what you're saying, Michael?
Well, actually, it could be predictable if
but it's not.
Knew.
Yeah, if you
every aspect of the charge of the atoms and everything involved. Same as, for instance, I know if you ever played roulette, right? Roulette is considered, this guy throws this ball, goes around in a circle, and it's considered random as to where this ball actually goes.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really random. It's all depend on how fast this guy shoots this ball, the angular trajectory, how it hits, how it bounces, and where that ball lies is really not a random occurrence. And if he was to shoot that ball the same angle, same trajectory every time, that ball's going to land in the same spot every time.
No, Leo,
and if you ever gamble, there's people like that at the roulette. They're called shooters. And what they do is they look and they at the green part of the thing, the zero and the double zero, and they'll hit those more than what they will on the red and the black.
So actually, what they're doing is that you're saying is they practice, the wheel, and then or they practice throwing the ball at a certain. They think it. Is that what you're saying?
They don't think it. They just shoot the same balls at the same time, the same pace, the same angle, so it goes the same way every time.
And so they have a higher percentage.
They have a higher percentage of hitting in that same spot.
Right, but it's still.
But we perceive roulette as random, and it's really not. And a lot of the things that we consider random are probably not really random. It's just that the mathematics that are involved in it are so complex that we have to know so much that's happening even at a molecular level that we cannot calculate it.
That's true. That's true.
Right. So therefore, we consider it random.
Our universe, if it's us, if our universe, if it's like that, then it becomes random because we can't control all the variables. Yeah, and I know what you're saying. You're saying if you could control all the variables, or you could know.
Well, not necessarily control, but just.
But that control, know all the variables.
Know all the variables, and then you can predict what's going to happen.
Right.
I'm not going to fight with you.
That's
that's very similar to the common Christian argument I hear. When they always say that there's a reason for everything, or not. That's not what they use. They say everything happens for a reason. That's what they say.
Well,
but yet it's not true. It's actually slightly worded differently. There are reasons why things happen.
That's true.
But many times we just don't know what those reasons are. But if we would do enough research, if we knew enough about these things, and I think, and you're right, Mike, I never thought about that, but that randomness would disappear.
And my biggest thing, and my contention is not with Christians, but with evolutionists. When you talk about the creation of life, that this was a random.
I don't hear too many.
Or something that was by accident or by chance.
I haven't heard too many evolutionists say that though lately.
Well, the creation of life was by chance. This was a chance occurrence. And I have to disagree with that.
Hold up. I mean, if the same thing happens over and over again.
Right. If you put the same chemicals together, you put the same soup together, you come up with the same right formula, you're going to have life every time. And that would be my contention.
Well, I would not argue with that. But, I don't know, sometimes I think atheist, the term atheist, it's just like,
How about free thinker? Do you like that one better?
Yeah, free thinker.
Okay, wait a minute. First of all, I'm sorry, I must interject here. First of all, the show is going over.
I'm sorry.
But that's okay. But first thing, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to define atheism for you, and you can respond to that because I'm an atheist. You're not, I am, and he's not, or he prefers freethinker. So let me protect myself.
Actually, I prefer atheist.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to say here, atheism, all that means is have an absence of theistic belief. It does not say that there is no God. All it means is I have an absence of theistic belief. I can still be agnostic as well, because agnostic was coined by Thomas Huxley, which simply means that the realm of the supernatural is beyond our understanding, which is true. If it's supernatural, we can't perceive of it.
I have to disagree with you, Ray.
As an atheist, I agree that that the supernatural, even if it did exist, it is above the natural world. Therefore, we could not perceive it, even if it did exist. So, but as an atheist, the same as
I think an atheist is someone who says there is no God. An agnostic is someone who says he doesn't know if there's a God or not, that it's beyond our understanding.
Well, I guess I'm going by the older definitions.
Yeah, A in this term means not. When you have an A at the front of a word, it means not. Gnosticism comes from the Greek word knowledge or know.
No, wait a minute. But agnostic means what it means? So it means no knowledge?
No knowledge.
No knowledge, yeah.
And atheism means no theism or no God.
Okay, but that's I've always utilized that definition myself, because if a person is an asantist,
right.
See, no, this is the point. If a person is, this is the point. You think about it. Think about all the other ists and the other isms, okay? If a person is without theism,
atheism, right, without theism.
They're without theism, atheism.
Right.
That doesn't mean no. See, that's the point. This is the thing a lot of people don't understand. Also, if I'm an asantaist, I am without belief in Santa Claus, because Santaism would be Santa belief.
Without Santaism. But without Santa, that means you're just a bad boy and you're getting cold for Christmas.
That's right.
So that's where I'm coming from with that. So I don't want the caller to group all atheists together and say, I have a problem with atheists, because many atheists out there do not even go as far as to say they don't say it. There is no God. They may believe it, but they don't say it, because by definition, I guess the definition I have acquainted myself with, all atheism means is that I am without theistic belief. The same as with any other ism, if you put an A in front of it. But when it comes to atheism, all of a sudden, if people say, well, it means no God.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what it means. There is no God.
It just means you don't believe in a theistic idea.
See, but this is the thing. See, that's wrong, though, Michael. This is wrong, Michael. This is why. Theos means God. Yeah. But the word theism means belief in.
Right.
So if you add an A on it, you're saying without theistic belief, without God belief.
Without religious belief.
If I was atheos, then you were saying there's no God. But that's not what I'm saying. I am atheistic. I'm an atheist. So that's different. I didn't say I'm atheos.
Well, Infidel Guy, I've run your show over. I'm sorry. And, I've enjoyed talking to you, and I caught your deal on Landover.
Oh, okay.
Church. I was listening to you talk to the good reverend or something there. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of comical. I thought that was I can't believe how many people don't believe that's a satire site. Oh,
I've had all kinds of things happen to me because of that interview. People who believe it. Shortly after that interview, someone hacked into maybe my server or some other server and stole my check card information and charged up over $1,200 worth of things on my card.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Broke my bank. I think so. Someone thought that was the true, show. And as you know, Landover Baptist, they have this little banner on there, Michael. They put on they have on there, come listen to America's most dangerous black atheist or something like that.
Yeah. And you get the feeling you're going to listen to an angry black atheist.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm not angry. And I'm not angry at all.
Not at all.
So.
No. I think you have a good format.
Thank you.
And your website is just excellent. I like the way it's constructed.
Well, thank you very much, sir. What's your name again, sir?
Lynn Baggett.
Okay, Mr. Baggett.
We've got something in common. You used to be a prison guard.
Yep.
Well, I used to be a prison doctor. I was on death row, so.
Wow.
Anyway.
Well, all right. Well, thank you very much for calling in.
All right, Infidel Guy. You guys take care.
You too.
All right.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night. Wow. Well, that turned into a whole other conversation, didn't it, Mike?
All right. I'll give you one more chance here, Reg, to come my way. I got my Webster right in front of me. All right.
Oh, I knew it. Webster. Oh, the famous Christian.
Yeah, I'm worse than these guys. Atheism. Right?
You better go get another dictionary.
The word a plus theos. Theos being the Greek word for God.
Exactly.
So there is no God.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I know that.
Oh.
And I concur. That's my point.
Oh, all right.
Theos means God, not theism.
Well, theism is
what does theism mean, Michael?
That came from the theos, so that's what it would mean.
I know where that came from, Michael, but I'm saying, well, what does theism means? It means belief in God, right? Or God belief. You put A in front of that. No God belief. Hold on. We got another caller. Damn, just a second.
Wow, this is exciting now.
It's getting exciting now. You are live with the Infidel Guy. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, turn your volume down.
Okay, hang on, sorry. Reggie.
Yes, who you got calling here?
Reed.
Ah, how you doing, Reed?
Doing real good.
You're listening to the show. You're listening to the show, I assume.
I am. I've got a little delay going here. It's kind of hard to manage.
I hope you don't want to talk about the definition of words.
Well, I won't, but I wouldn't mind going there. But actually, I was going to interject something else. I was just caught part of the conversation where you guys were discussing randomness. Okay. And I don't want to delay the show too much.
That's okay. Go ahead.
I just want to bring up the topic of, you guys were talking about, for instance, if you had the soup and the initial conditions, perhaps life would evolve or form every time. But I just want to bring up one thing. I guess on the macroscopic in terms of, molecular level, maybe you guys have a point, but what about the sub-molecular level, the randomness that's always referred to when they talk about subatomic particles and things like that. I guess I'm just trying to. I'm probably bringing up a topic that's too late for the show already, but
subatomic particles obey, your laws too. I
mean, but they're just not predictable. Oh, but if you so you're saying, Michael, but if we knew all of the mathematical,
they are predictable.
I'm sorry.
They are somewhat predictable.
Okay.
Yeah, subatomic particles.
Okay, down to the
randomness,
well, sure.
Probability to describe interactions of them, but they all have rules and formulas for them, sure.
Well, whenever I see anything on the quantum interactions, whenever I see any articles or whatnot on that, all they talk about is that you can understand something about the statistics, but you can never predict action. And I always wonder if there's not something fundamental about life that's based on and I'm going to use the word loosely, randomness of the subatomic, the quantum. And it just seems to me that there is some element of randomness in the world based on that fundamental concept. I don't know if
there is. And you're hitting on a bigger idea. I don't know how familiar you may be on the ideas of complexity and chaos in science. But one of the ideas is that the macroscopic actually mirrors the microscopic, and that the things that happen on a large scale can be attributed to what happens on an extremely small scale at the atomic level. Mm-hmm. And there's something known as the butterfly syndrome, whereas in the vibrations or the air change of velocity of, say, a butterfly flying at a certain location in China, years later will have an impact as to whether Syracuse will be hit by a blizzard or not.
Yeah, I've heard all these
and that's
intro stories, but I always have a fundamental, wonder about whether or not there really is some element of randomness. And I almost kind of like to think that there is. I'd like to think that everything isn't just predetermined by known scientific quantities and equations. Although
randomness is definitely a word that we use to describe what we can't describe with our mathematics or know everything that's happening on an atomic level. I mean. We have to use that phrase to describe what we see. Yes, I mean it is random,
right?
But if you take some of the most random things that you have, would probably be like the location of an atom within a heated gas. Where is this atom at any particular moment? And that would actually be a random occurrence as defined by science. But the actual location of that gas molecule would be based on its initial speed, what it hit, what it bounced off, its angle that it hit, things that we're not going to be able to measure or predict because there's so many equations involved.
Right.
And the complexity involved in it. So it appears as a chaotic system. And that's how we define it, as chaotic and random.
Ah.
Yeah, I see what your point is there. It just seemed to me you were totally dismissing randomness in the universe, and it seems to me that's something that's
random
really on the
word we use to describe events that appear random.
Right, because we don't have the ability to calculate them
right.
As far as exactly
too
right.
much at the atomic level for us to calculate and know in order to do that. One of the things that when computers first came out, let me give you an example to try to play this on a larger scale. When computers first came out in the 60s, I don't know if you remember this, but
I was a little young.
Yeah, but they said that, okay, computers are out, and what we're going to be able to do now is predict the weather. We're going to be able to take all this data that we have from all over the world and predict the weather. We're going to know what the weather is going to be like 10 years from now on your birthday, all right? And what they discovered is they can't do this. With all the satellites and all the information they're putting in, the best they could do is maybe like a 3-day forecast.
Okay.
And that is because there is so much data that would have to be input. They figured out in order for them to do something like that, they would have to have sensors 6 foot apart and 10 feet tall over every square foot of the planet, sending in data. In order, it would take that much information in order for them to make that kind of prediction. So therefore, the weather, what it's going to be 10 years from now, whatever, is going to appear to be unpredictable or random, when it really isn't. It's just that we can't have the data to fix in there.
Right, but I guess we're talking about two different things, complexity versus randomness. And I wouldn't want to blur the distinction. Complexity just means that we don't have the tools to deal with it. Randomness is a fundamental element of nature whereby we cannot predict the future results. And I kind of hold to the idea that the whole quantum study, the whole studies of the quantum world are going to show that there's some element to this macroscopic world that cannot be predicted. And I almost border on religious belief in the way I state that. I apologize, but I just think that that's the way it's going to work out in some fashion. I don't want to belabor this too long. I think we probably already have, but
yeah, we can probably save that for another show.
yeah, and maybe we should. I should probably let you guys go on with your topic from here on out. But I appreciate you addressing them.
Well. Oh, was that me or for me or Michael?
I guess both of you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, by the way, Mike, Reed is also a member of the AFS.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so.
Well, maybe we'll run into you there sometime, huh?
I come down there about once a year or so. I'm in South Carolina. I used to go to the AFS meetings religiously, but let's talk about the AFS. I tell you what torqued me off 2 months ago. They put on the back of their newsletter who honored their pledges.
Uh-oh.
And that got me hot. My name was on there, all right? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that got me hot. That reminded me of being back in Catholic Church.
That's the whole point.
they would always hand out these envelopes to everybody with numbers on them, so they know how much everybody gave. And on Easter they would have their special Sunday collection, and everyone had special envelopes. And they would print who put how much money in those envelopes in the church bulletin. And that's what that reminded me of when the AFS did that. And that torqued me off.
Yep.
Well, it seemed to me they were pretty careful not to do anything close to that when they were doing the home place drive last year. So
that's right. That's right.
To me, it's like, you don't want to shame people into giving money. I hate that. You don't want to divide the groups between those who honor their pledge, those who did not, the have-nots, or however you want to do it. To me, it's divisive.
It's shameful. I agree.
I just don't like that tactic.
Right.
Well, at least they didn't word it all the people who did not send any money, here's your name. And shame on you for not sending anything. But you're right. It works either way. Inversely, it works both ways.
I mean, that's the intent.
Yeah. See, but I can just say, hey, they just forgot my name.
And they may have had good intentions when they did that. So,
yeah, of course.
I'm gonna get the line open. I'm gonna sign off. It was good talking with you guys.
All right, Reed. Thanks for calling in.
Nice.
That was great. That was really, really great. Well, okay, everyone. I think that's the last phone call we're going to have. Michael Ledo, I really appreciate you coming on to the show.
And I enjoyed it.
It was great. I'm glad the callers started to call in. They saved their calls to the last, and that's great. For the listeners, if you have any ideas of any future guests that you would like to appear on the show, do not be bashful. Contact them and then have them contact me, or if you don't want to, give me the name. I'll try to track them down and contact them. I'm looking for all types of people, men, women, people, debaters, scientists. Hell, I would really like to see some archaeologists and geologists appear on the show. And let's help make this show grow. If you're a first-time listener, spread the word. Well, I guess that's about it. Oh, and for some of you who are just coming in, hopefully we'll have over 25 to 30 people who are listening. If you could, stay tuned after the show and go to live365.com. Look up, type in the search area there, Free Thought. And I'm also broadcasting. I'm doing a broadcast test on Live 365. I may start broadcasting through them as well so that we can get more listeners. Okay, that's the end of the show. Thank you very much, everyone, for stopping by Live with Infidel Guy. I will see you tomorrow. And we're having some great guests coming. Matter of fact, we're having firstkings.com. Let's see. Oh, they're called first-king.com. And they're working on some music for me, and very interesting story that these guys have to give us, guys and gals have to give us. And we should hang around and listen to that. I'll see you all tomorrow.